Two commanders, Max and Eric, are instructed by their boss to find a special group of people named Divergents. As they invade a place called Candor, they find a few Divergents and start testing them to see if they fit their boss's criteria. A young girl takes the test and fails, but as Eric is about to kill her, a Divergent lady in the room risks her life to stop him.
Eric!
A few days earlier, following an attack on a group of people from a faction called Abnegation, a leader named Janine instructs her soldiers, led by Max and Eric, to find a special box in the area. While looking around, Eric eventually finds the box and shows it to Max, as he says they need to inform Janine that they've found what she wants. Shortly after, Janine receives the box and looks pleased to finally have it in her possession. She says the box contains a message from the founders of their city on how to maintain peace among all the different factions. However, she adds that only a special group called Divergents can open it. Divergents are people who happen to be in more than one faction, and since Janine needs them to open the special box, she instructs her soldiers to find every one of them.
Only a Divergent can open this box.
Elsewhere, a Divergent named Triss wakes up from a nightmare where she sees a group of people from a faction called Amity blaming her for a series of deaths, including that of her parents. She looks sad because she has just lost her parents after the attack on Abnegation, and she eventually decides to cut her hair. After a while, she meets her boyfriend, Four, who looks surprised to see her new look, though he says he likes it. Shortly after, as they're returning to the Amity Dome, Triss asks Four how long they'll be staying, and he says they'll only leave when it's safe. While they're taking care of the horses in the stable, Four's dad, Marcus, shows up and tells his son that he can't keep ignoring him. However, Triss tells him to leave them alone. Marcus then mentions that Triss's parents weren't killed because of the mere attack on Abnegation, and that it's due to the fact that Triss's mom was hiding something. Four doesn't want to hear anything from his dad, so he tells him to stay away from them.
Whatever you want from us, you're not gonna get it.
Much later, while Four and Triss are getting their food, they are joined by Triss's brother, Caleb, and one of his friends, Peter. As they talk about how Janine has instituted martial law in the city, Four says it's better for them to stay in Amity and wait for where they'll find their other friends from the Dauntless faction. However, Triss says they need to move fast so they can kill Janine for what she did to her parents. Caleb thinks it's too risky to even think about it, but Triss doesn't seem to care. Peter then mentions that Triss can go on her own to kill Janine, as he also adds that he'll be keeping Caleb away from her so that she doesn't get him killed like their parents. Triss gets angry. A fight starts between them, and they eventually have to be separated by the leader of Amity, Johanna, who calls them to her office. When they get there, she tells them that they have to leave. She mentions that Amity's way has always been peaceful, and their presence could ruin things. Four then begs for more time, so Johanna says she'll give them one more chance. However, she tells Triss that even though she's heard about her parents' death, she shouldn't let the anger consume her. Just then, Johanna is informed that Eric and Max are on their way to Amity. She immediately tells Four and the others to wait in her office while she goes down to attend to Janine's soldiers. When they arrive, they mention that they're there to test for divergence, and even though Johanna doesn't like the idea, she eventually agrees. While Four and Triss are about to ditch Peter, saying they need to split up, he alerts Eric to come and get them. Luckily, Four is able to escape with Triss and Caleb, but the soldiers still chase them. Just as they see a train passing, they quickly get on board to leave the area. However, it turns out to be a train owned by the factionless people in the society, who are not too pleased with how Four, Triss, and Caleb entered their train. In an attempt to get the factionless to believe that they mean no harm, Caleb indirectly calls them thieves. This gets the factionless people angry, and it leads to a fight. After a while, Four stops the fight and mentions that his real name is Tobias Eaton. This makes the factionless people stand down as they mention that they've been looking for him. Triss doesn't understand what's happening, and Four doesn't say anything either. As they then get to factionless territory, Triss realizes that Four is the son of their leader, Evelyn, who everyone believed was dead. Evelyn welcomes them in, and while they're having dinner, Triss asks for an explanation on their reunion. Evelyn then mentions that she had to leave Four with his abusive father and fake her death because it was the only way she could have ended the marriage. Triss looks confused as she wonders why Evelyn would leave her son, who still resents her for it. Evelyn then mentions that she'd like to team up with Four's dauntless soldiers, who are now in a faction called Candor, but he refuses. Triss thinks it's a good plan because they'll be able to kill Janine, but Four doesn't want to have anything to do with his mother. He also says he believes she just wants to take Janine's position. As Evelyn tries to explain herself to him, he tells her he's not interested in what she has to say.
We'd be unstoppable.
That's not gonna happen.
The next day, they leave for Candor to reunite with their dauntless friends, but Caleb says he can't keep following them. He says he'd rather return to Abnegation to see if he can sort out what's left of their parents' things. Triss feels sad to see him go, but Four tells her not to blame herself for it. Shortly after, they arrive in Candor and meet their friends, who have been waiting for them. One of their friends, Christina, looks particularly pleased to see Triss. She also asks if Triss has seen her boyfriend, Will, but she says she hasn't. As they enter a nearby building to start planning their next move, Four and Trees are arrested by Candor soldiers who take them to meet their leader, Jack Kang. While in his office, Jack says he'll have to send them to Janine because he knows they're wanted for having something to do with the attack on Abnegation. However, Four and Triss deny it. Four also plead their innocence, saying that if they're taken to Janine, she'll kill them before they stand trial. He then suggests that Kang can use Candor's truth serum on them to confirm if they're lying about their involvement in the attack. Triss doesn't look very interested, but Four says they'll both have to do it to clear their names.
We possess such a serum. And use it on us.
After a while, Four is given the serum, and as he answers the questions he's asked, he clears his name. Triss also clears herself of any involvement in the attack, but as she can't lie, she mentions that she killed Will because he tried to shoot her. Christina is there to watch the trial, and she can't believe that Triss would do something like that. After clearing their names, Triss sounds pissed and tells Four that he shouldn't have let them stand trial using the truth serum. Elsewhere, Janine fails in her attempt to use several diversions to unlock the box as they all keep dying.
She's gonna do it.
She then tells her soldiers to look deeper for anyone who is fully divergent. Elsewhere in Candor, Triss stands at the top of a building, still thinking about what has happened. One of her friends, Uriah, joins her and asks about Four while referring to him as her scary boyfriend, and Triss says he's probably doing scary boyfriend things. Just then, Uriah mentions that he has been seeing lights beyond the city's walls. As he keeps talking about how it's likely impossible because they've always been told that there's only a wasteland beyond the wall, Janine's soldiers arrive to attack them. Triss is able to run, but while Uriah is facing the soldiers, he gets shot with a metal bullet that sticks on his body. The soldiers then go around to shoot the others who are around. Triss also gets shot, but she eventually finds the weapons room and meets Uriah again when he's no longer unconscious. As he asks why they're not unconscious like many of the others, Triss says it's because they're divergents. Before they can go anywhere, Eric and Max arrest them. While Eric tests and kills the divergents who don't meet his criteria, Triss looks angry at him. When he almost kills a child, Triss attacks him, but before he can hurt her, Max tells Eric that she still has to be tested. As he tests her, he then sees that she's 100% divergent, which is what Janine is looking for. Before they can leave with her, though, Four ambushes them and saves Triss. Four then asks Eric what Janine wants Triss for, but he says he doesn't know. Following this, Four kills Eric and takes his soldiers back to team up with the factionless, even though he still doesn't trust Evelyn.
It's time we fight back.
Elsewhere, Max returns to Janine and tells her that Triss is the divergent she needs. As she wonders how she'll get Triss, Max brings in Peter to help. Janine then asks Peter why he wants to help, and he says he wants a position in her regime. She agrees to reward him, though she mentions that he needs to prove himself by helping her catch Triss. Peter then mentions that Triss has a weak spot that can be exploited. Later that day, 3 of the dauntless soldiers with metal bullets on their bodies are about to kill themselves by falling from a tall platform. Christina is one of them, and as the victims are about to fall, they keep saying that if Triss doesn't surrender to Janine, more people will continue to die. Triss immediately runs to help Christina and the others, but one of them still falls. Shortly after, A lady named Tori tells everyone that Christina and the others were controlled by the metal bullets Janine's soldiers fired earlier. Since most of them have it, they look scared, especially as Tori says that if they try to remove it, they will die. Just then, some of the factionless people suggest letting Triss go, but Four says he won't let that happen. When he eventually meets Triss alone, he tells her that he won't let anything happen to her. However, that night, while he's sleeping, she sneaks out and goes to surrender so that no other person will be killed because of her. When Four wakes up the next day, he realizes that Triss has left, so he decides to go after her. Evelyn tries to stop him, but he doesn't listen to her.
Triss left. She's gone.
Elsewhere, Peter goes to meet Triss in her cell. He says he's surprised that she actually decided to come, but Triss says she just wanted the killings to stop. Shortly after, he takes her into the lab with the special box and tells her that she has to open it by passing the sims of all 5 factions. Janine also shows up and tells her to listen to what Peter is saying. Triss then accuses Janine of being a ruthless killer, but she says she had to do what she could to maintain peace. Just as Peter tries to force Triss to start the sims, she attacks and injures him. She also takes the gun from him and threatens to kill him if Janine doesn't let her go. However, Janine says she can kill him if she wants, because she has other soldiers. Peter can't believe this, but Triss decides against killing him. She then threatens to shoot herself, but Caleb enters the room and takes the gun from her. With this, Triss realizes that her brother left her to be part of Janine's regime. As Janine also says she'll keep activating the metal bullets in the dauntless people if Triss doesn't cooperate, she finally agrees to start the sims. In the first sim, Triss has to save her mom from a flying house that goes on fire. Despite how dangerous it is, Triss succeeds. And Janine gets a message that she has passed the Dauntless sim. In the Candor sim, Triss sees her mom, who encourages her to keep fighting and be brave. However, Triss says she's not brave enough, and that she often thinks about how everyone would still be alive if she wasn't divergent. With this, she passes the sim, and as she looks around, she finds herself inside the lab. Almost immediately, Four breaks in with his crew to save her. While they're leaving, they shoot some of Janine's soldiers, but as Triss gets the chance to kill Peter, she spares his life and leaves him shocked. As she's then heading out with Four, he calls himself her scary boyfriend, and this makes her realize that she's still in a sim. He tries to convince her otherwise, but she says goodbye to him and passes the erudite sim.
You know me, scary boyfriend skills.
As she does this, Janine looks impressed and says she can't believe Triss completed 4 sims in a day. Peter then says she hasn't completed the abnegation sim yet, but Janine says she did that already when she spared his life. Before they can continue, Caleb sees that her vitals are dropping, so he suggests giving her some time to rest. Even though she's initially against it, Janine agrees to let Triss continue later. While Triss is inside her cell, Caleb comes to see her. She then says their parents will be ashamed of him, but he seems to believe he's doing the right thing. Triss asks what's inside the box, and Caleb says it's a message from the founders, who only wanted it to be open in case the faction system stopped working. Just then, Triss says she can't believe Caleb is working for the person who killed their parents, but he says they brought it upon themselves by hiding the box in the house. Shortly after, Peter comes in to take Triss to the lab so she can complete the final sim, which is for Amity. On the way, Peter shows her that Four has been captured, and she doesn't look pleased. While she then enters the sim, Janine gets her angry by saying that it's quite ironic that the box Triss's mom was hiding would be opened by her daughter. Triss then frees herself and breaks the barrier between them so she can attack Janine. However, Janine disappears, and Triss falls from a tall building to her death. Janine can't believe this, but she says they'll have to start their search for another divergent. Caleb also looks really sad, but he just walks away. While Peter is then taking Triss's body out, he shows her to Four, saying Janine wanted him to see his dead girlfriend. As he gets angry and tries to beat Peter, Triss wakes up. Peter then quickly tells Four to beat up the soldiers with him so that they can help Triss. After Four does this, Peter explains that he injected Triss with a drug that was meant to knock her out for a few minutes. She thanks him for it, but he says they're now even. Before they can leave, Triss says she'd like to take the box first. Peter and Four are not sure about this, but she convinces them that if it's so important, she needs to take it. Following this, Peter directs them to take another route to the lab. He then enters the control room and gives Four access to the lab without anyone knowing. When Janine realizes that something is going on, Peter leaves the room. Elsewhere, Evelyn is informed that the metal bullets in all the Dauntless soldiers have been removed, so she says they need to march to the city to take down Jeanine. Meanwhile, Triss suddenly decides against taking the box, as she says she'd now like to open it. Four says they don't have the time for that because Jeanine's soldiers are already on the way, but Triss convinces him to let her do it. He finally agrees, so she connects the cords and enters the sim. She sees Jeanine again, but this time, she says she won't fight. However, Jeanine says there's someone else she'll have to fight. Just then, Triss sees her evil self, who immediately attacks her. Despite this, Triss refuses to fight back, and she passes the sim.
You killed Will and your parents.
Just as Jeanine's soldiers enter to kill Four and Triss, Jeanine stops them because the box is about to open. After the box opens, a hologram of a woman named Edith appears, and she tells them that they're all part of an experiment. She also mentions that the true purpose of the experiment is to understand the Divergents, who are believed to possess true powers to lead everyone. She then ends her message by saying that there are people behind the wall waiting for their arrival. Everyone in the room looks shocked, because they always believed they were the last living humans in the world, but it turns out that there are others. As Triss then tells Jeanine that she has always been wrong about the Divergents, she gets angry and tells Max to bury the box to ensure no one ever sees the message. She also mentions that she wants Triss and Four dead. Just as Max is about to shoot Four, Evelyn and her soldiers enter to kill him and take over the lab. Jeanine looks shocked by this because she thought Evelyn was dead, and she says the message mustn't get out. However, Evelyn tells her men to take Jeanine and Caleb away.
When that message gets out, it'll be the end.
As she then asks what the message is about, Four says he'll show her and everyone in the city. Following this, the message gets sent to everyone, and they look excited as they head for the wall. Meanwhile, Jeanine tells Evelyn that she wonders what will be behind the wall because it's been over 200 years since anyone got out. However, Evelyn says she'll never know as she then shoots her.